Ahlan wa sahlan, Rifati. Welcome to the A2 The Show podcast. Today we have a special guest from the USA, Ali Musa, or
Yeah.
Ali Musa.
Yeah.
Welcome from the Ali USA podcast.
Yes.
And he's a comedian in Austin, Texas. And he kind of looks like these two guys if they were combined.
Oh my God, you did a printout and everything. Dude, I've been using that as an opener on stage a lot lately now. Just the love child of Muammar Gaddafi and Danny Trejo. And that's so accurate. Oh my God. That was a nice printout too. You got like the expensive paper for that one.
Exactly.
Show him your printer, Ali.
Wow.
Show him your beautiful printer.
Yeah, so I have a printer right here, right now. This is a new upgrade to the studio, so I got printing on demand.
Wow.
Let's go.
I need to get that framed. I'm gonna just start using Danny Trejo and Muammar Gaddafi. Someone needs to do an AI fusion of the two, and that'll be my new headshot on all my flyers.
For your next special, you just use that as your cover photo.
Yeah. I'm going to start sending that out to bookers because they always ask for like a headshot and a bio, and I'm just going to send that instead.
You should. AI
yeah,
mix
definitely.
it up.
Right.
So, how's your Halloween going so far? It's the October season.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's a couple more weeks till actual Halloween. I don't know if I'm going to dress as anything. I wear horror movie T-shirts, and I have a lot of Halloween related jokes lately that I only do this time of year. So I enjoy it for that.
Okay.
What was the last thing you wore? Like last year?
Last time I wore a costume.
Yeah.
I was Jon Snow from Game of Thrones.
Okay.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah. It was an expensive costume too. Like it has like 10 different pieces. It was hard to put on and just like you construct your breathing and everything. It was tough. It was super hot too because I was in Arizona and it's still 112 degrees in October in Arizona. I'm walking around in this layered costume. I went on stage too and was doing comedy as Jon Snow.
Wow, Jon Snow, more like John Sand, am I right?
Right.
I'm sorry. But the Halloween thing has really fucked me up, honestly, because I've been watching too many horror movies.
Yeah.
And I really try to not engage with Satanism in general. But then because of this Halloween stuff, I've been watching too many scary movies and my brain's been getting a lot, like I've been scared a lot more. Like literally the other day, I went into my room, the lights were off. I heard a noise and I was like, ah! And I was screaming. And it was just a cat. It literally was just a cat the whole time.
I have cats too. I deal with that all the time. Well, they'll knock over something in the middle of the night. And I think Michael Myers is in my apartment. And I'm just like, oh, it's just the cat on the counter again.
Yeah, that's pretty freaky. Yeah, and so I don't know why. It's so dark. You know what I mean? And I'm glad it's only for October because I can't do it the whole year round because I've been having so many nightmares, like actual nightmares. I've been doing a bit of research also into the Satanism practices. And it's so scary, man. They skin you and then they turn it into leather products and then they
what is this rabbit hole of evil shit that you've been watching?
I know, I'm scared, dude.
That's a big thing in movies now, too. This whole satanic cult thing, it seems to be a theme. There's a bunch of new movies that are just going with that right now. So,
what's your favorite horror movie, then?
Favorite horror movie? I really like A Nightmare on Elm Street, which,
that's a good one.
I think Freddy Krueger is the Michael Jordan of horror villains. So, the movies themselves aren't necessarily the greatest thing ever, but Freddy himself is. I treated Freddy Krueger like people treated Batman and Superman growing up, where you're not supposed to like him like that, but I thought he was cool. So,
he was your hero.
Yeah,
kind of. He low key was. I was just like, people like Power Rangers. I liked Freddy Krueger.
So wait, as a comedian, do you actually also like to scare people? Like, how is that working?
Yeah, we used to do pranks all the time. Remember when Jackass was popular and just prank shows on the internet? We used to just hide and record ourselves startling people in public and stuff. So way before TikTok, way before that became a thing. We would always wear a Halloween mask and jump out when people are just walking and stuff. So.
Did you ever try the Allahu Akbar prank or?
No. That is crazy. That dude who throws the backpack in the middle of a Whole Foods, he's just like Allahu Akbar, and I'm just like, bro. I mean, And then they get shot, and then the people just get off with like no charges at all. It was like, well, yeah, they thought you threw a fucking bomb at them. Like, I heard some dude get shot at a mall recently doing something like that.
Really?
Yeah, and like I forget where it was, but some guy got shot. Some YouTuber who's very popular was doing some prank following people around. A guy shot him, and I know, like, my friend's like, he's like, my sister's boyfriend's son's friend shot this dude. So I was like, oh, you're that connected to the guy? We gonna go down.
Bro, the guy who shot him sounds like an Arab. It was like with all these connections.
Yeah, I think he was.
It's like, I run away from my country, not for it to follow me. I don't want bombs to follow me.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Ali, how your family's from?
They're from Libya. Yes.
Libya.
Yeah,
how
my dad
Libyan
is there currently. I'm half
wow.
Libyan, so I'm not like the full. I'm not the full deal. I'm half white, half Libyan. So my dad is Libyan, my mom is white, and yeah. But I grew up Muslim and just, lived in that whole world. So I identify with that a little bit more. Going to the mosque as a kid and just. The way the Muslim community is, just like so many get-togethers with other families and stuff. That's,
Yeah. So you had exposure to both cultures growing up, though,
yeah,
because you're your mom. So, and how did you balance that out?
I mean, it was funny though, because like you're not really supposed to celebrate Christmas, you know. But we kind of did, like, secretly. And I remember one time we had a bunch of people coming over, and my dad made us hide the Christmas tree. And he put it, it was like a cartoon, like he shoved it in like a closet and couldn't get the door shut. So I was like, if someone opens that, it's going to come falling on top of them. And I remember someone was going to, like, one of the kids was going to open the closet. He's like, no, don't get in there. Don't go in there.
And was your dad pro Christmas or anti Christmas? Like, did you have to hide it from him or no?
No, he was fine with it, but he didn't want other people to know. Yeah, it was like a secret. But I knew other Libyans.
Santa.
Yeah,
yeah. Exactly.
I knew other Libyans that kind of celebrated it too. Just like it wasn't like they're not going to go singing Christmas carols, but they'll buy presents and just be like, it's fun, just like Thanksgiving. It's like.
Mm-hmm.
It's the whole concept of the gathering, it's like just also that you mentioned in Muslim culture that there's a lot of family gatherings that occur in Christmas.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that. Like we used to drive all the way to like San Francisco or El Paso, Texas, just to go for the weekend to hang out at another Libyan family's house, and just like people it's people like my dad grew up with in Tripoli and stuff. And we basically were family. There's a bunch of Libyan families where I'm just like, they were, kind of considered almost siblings in a sense. We would just see each other so much.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is there a large Libyan community in Texas?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I haven't met a lot of Libyans out here. I'm sure there might be, but there's not a lot of Libyans in general. I think there's like 7 million in the world. So it's just like, it's hard to come by, actually. There's a lot of Muslims and, people from the Middle East out here, though, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me and Said were Lebanese, actually.
Okay, I get mistaken for being Lebanese all the time because, Libya. So, like, people I've known for 10 years, they'll, like, bring me on stage. This next guy's from Lebanon. I'm just like, what? I'm just like, that's kind of in a different continent, but fine, like.
This next guy's from Lesbian.
Right, or from labia, or just...
labia.
I've gotten that.
Trying to find the clit, bro.
Right.
But it's funny, man. Like for us as well. Like we're a very small country. It's just 4 million Lebanese people in the country, and then you'll find Lebanese people around the world. We amount to maybe 20 million.
Right.
Diaspora. Right. It's insane. Like whatever country I visit, I always end up finding a Lebanese person. So
yeah,
it's just curious. Like it makes me curious. Like, are we secretly invading the world, or what's going on?
Right, because there's so much more outside of the country. Just people move and just populate elsewhere, and just over the years, it just I've only met 2 other Libyan comedians. I've been doing stand up for 12 years. I've only met 2.
Wow.
So that just, and one of them is half Libyan like me as well.
Yeah. Does it give you an edge being half,
right.
like, you know?
I mean, what do you mean by an edge?
Well, obviously, if you're just from Libya, if you're fully Libyan, most probably your perspective would just have a Libyan perspective. But then when you mix it with the white culture, you can also connect with like white culture that is obviously the majority in the US. So you can kind of like connect the immigrants with the white culture in the US. So I don't know if that
yeah, I do jokes like that too. How I'm half white trash, half terrorist, just so yeah, I make make fun of it a little bit, and but yeah, I basically I'm an American, grew up in Arizona, but like I said, I was raised Muslim and around just the Muslim community, going to the mosque, so I see both sides.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever been to Libya, or would you want to go to?
I haven't, but I had a chance to go several times when I was younger. My sister basically lived there for a long time, who's younger than me, and my mom was there for a long time too. And I don't know, I always had like a job just during my teenage years, and just as I got older, I was gonna go, and then everything just got destabilized there. As you know, I think it was like 2011, everything went crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I just never got a chance to go out there.
You want to visit, but not during war. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Like, yeah, my dad is out there several months out of the year, and he just sends me stuff. He's like, my neighbors got bombed, and he'll literally send me a photo of like a bowling ball sized hole in some apartment next to him.
Also, wouldn't it be more dangerous for you because like they'd probably mistake you for someone else?
It's possible.
Specifically, who? Muammar Gaddafi.
Right. Like, didn't we kill you? What are you doing here?
It's like, we'll do it again.
He has resurrected himself.
And then they just anoint you as president. You're like, oh, no, we cannot kill him.
This ain't too shabby, because he was like the richest man in Africa,
Yeah.
It's not a bad gig to have. No, I told a joke about that, because if you Google like who's like the richest dictator ever, like they said Muammar Gaddafi had like you couldn't measure his net worth because he had so much money in like gold and oil. And then I was like, that's crazy. Then I Googled who's the richest man that's ever existed, and it's an African king named Mansa Musa. So I'm like, the two richest people of all time, one is Libyan, the other has my name. Meanwhile, I overdrafted my debit card the other day on toll road fees. So,
I guess it's just a sign, man. You got to go to Libya.
Right, yeah. I think it's my calling to go and take over.
You might be the funniest comedian in Libya right now.
I mean, my dad's pretty funny, actually. But yeah, I would say I'd say I'd be in the top 5 if I went.
Did your dad do stand up at all, or no?
Oh yeah,
no, not at all. He's super funny, but he never, he's good with impressions and voices, and just super smart. My dad speaks like 6 languages, and he's has like 3 degrees, going to different universities in the United States and in Tripoli. So he's a way more successful person than me. I'm surprised he hasn't disowned me at this point.
It's interesting when like you have parents that are just they've done so much in their life, and then their children's paths is just so different from them.
Right.
And
yeah.
It's like these expectations are just placed on you, and then you realize that that's not exactly true. It's just your path is just completely different from what they have done in their lives.
Right. Yeah, and especially when you say you're going to be a stand-up comedian. That's just like, that's for people on TV. It's like, that's like saying I'm going to be a professional wrestler. It's like, no one actually does that, Like, yeah, it's out there, but it's such a minuscule possibility. You don't, it seems silly. Like, I'm going to be a cowboy. Yeah. It's like, what are you talking about?
Have you tried being a cowboy before?
I should. I'm in Texas. Why not? No, but for a while he was just like, when are you going to get a real job? And then, you know, once he saw me like actually getting somewhere in it, he was cool with it, you know. My mom's always been accepting of it, you know.
When did you come out as a comedian?
I love how you said come out, like I came out of the closet, like I'm gay.
Just like the Christmas tree.
Right? Yeah, there you go. Callback. I mean, they knew that I was doing open mics and stuff. So, like, I was like, I'm doing stand-up. So, you know. And once I started getting booked and everything, and then in order to get successful at stand-up, you have to, like, be all in. So you have to sacrifice a series of things. It's like having a normal job. You know how many jobs I quit just to do, like, a gig that paid $20 or nothing? I'm like, I have, like, a part-time job at a grocery store. You know, I'm in my early 20s, so, you know, it does enough to pay the bills, kind of. And I'll just not show up because, like, oh, I have a show on Friday night, so I ask if I can get that day off. They say no, and I just quit the job. I've done that like 5-6 times where I just quit a job entirely just to continue to do comedy for almost no money at the time. You know, they say you got to put in like 10 years, and there's major exceptions, especially in today's internet growth, where if you just go viral and you're funny and someone sees you and likes you, you can. That's why it's crazy, because someone could be doing comedy for 15 years, they've never got a break, and then someone's been doing comedy for a year and they catch a break. But that's what makes it exciting, that the fact that there's no rules, you know, there's no set. You
think it's a bit like gambling then?
I mean, sometimes it's like winning the lottery, so a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
There's some people that just are in the right place at the right time, and you know, it's like, yeah, like it's equivalent to just be getting like super lucky.
Is that why I just wanted to follow up on that with the Kill Tony situation. Is that what you're aiming for when you're hopping on a Kill Tony?
Yeah, it's just I like the show and the format, and it's just being here in Austin. Like, I wouldn't be like some of these lunatics that literally travel from Europe to get on Kill Tony, and they've never done comedy either. I understand if you're just like, I want to visit United States, I want to go to Austin and see stand up, and then you're there, so you sign up. But I know I've talked to people that specifically like travel from all over the world just to do Kill Tony, and they've never done stand up. I'm like, you're gonna get humiliated.
Wow.
You know,
he doesn't like that. Yeah, exactly.
No. So yeah, I feel like it's a way to boost, you know, what I've been doing and who I am. So, and it's a fun hang too. So, yeah, I've been on it. I think four times I've been on it. The first time I hadn't even lived in Austin. I was just traveling through, and I got on the first time. And the reason I got on is they thought I was a female, because I'm sure you guys you watch the show enough. Yeah, like, let's get a lady up here, and he starts shuffling through, and he's like, John, nope, Michael, no, Ali Musa, and he brings me on, and he's like, you're not a girl, let's see you anyway. You know? Yeah, that was the big that one got me the most attention. Like, I've been on a few more times, but I had a huge influx. I still get recognized. I mean, I don't know exactly what particular episode I get recognized for, but like all the time people are like, oh, you're from Kill Tony. So it's kind of cool.
He likes to roast you, by the way. That's what I've noticed.
Right. I mean, he loves roasting everybody, but yeah, he definitely. What did he call me, a melted magician last time or something? Something like that.
Oh, so how often do you sign up for it? You've been there 4 times?
I've been on it 4 times. I've signed up can we cuss on this podcast?
Yes.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, right. Yeah, because I cuss a lot. I've signed up a shit ton of times. It took me a year. So like, I got on the very first time I signed up because of them thinking I was a female, and then the second time, I'd maybe signed up like 4 times, 5 times, and got on again. Then it took me a full year of signing up, you know, 3 times a month. So it was like dozens of times before I got on again. And then I got on again in just like 2 months ago, something like that. And that took like another 7 months. So not every week. Wow. I haven't signed up in like a couple months now. I was like, I got on last time, you know, I'm going to just focus more on getting booked on shows around town and traveling. And I'll sign up again for it for sure.
Yeah.
And what's it like from like your perspective, you know, being on stage?
It's hard for me, honestly.
Hinge Cliff,
Yeah, and then
Post
you don't
Malone.
know who's on. So I liked it. I liked it better at the Vulcan Gas Company. The Mothership is an amazing club, and the aesthetics and the outlook. I mean, like layout is better for sure. But as a comic, I liked being able to watch it because at Vulcan you could stand in the corner and watch the show, so you know who the guest is. You know the vibe of the night. Is it weird? What have they been joking about? I could say this once I go up. So with the Mothership, you go in blindly. I had no idea it was Rogan. I had no idea it was Post Malone. They just rush you in through the back and you walk on stage. And then like Tony was even like saying things I didn't even know what he was talking about. He's like, "Yeah, that last guy," and I was just like, "I don't know what you're calling back to." You know. So from that standpoint, I really I would rather know what I'm going into because like when I do open mics and when I run shows and stuff, I like talking about stuff in the moment and what has gone on. Like I've hosted so many shows and open mics, and I don't try to be mean about it, but I'll do like little roasts about the last comedian. And I'll go on stage and just say something. I say don't do material and don't do time in between comedians as a host, because that can be just kind of just it's annoying when someone starts doing a long bit after every stand-up, because then it just takes forever. But if you just say something, just a quick jab or a quick one-liner.
Just to keep the vibe flowing, you know, and like
right. That's why I don't like these shows where they piggyback each other. It's a good way to like tighten the time, where they call it shotgun mic, where the comedian brings up the next comedian. I like when there's a host. I feel like hosts are undervalued and underrated when it comes to comedy. They actually used to have headliners host shows, which I think is a way better way to go about it, where a really seasoned veteran comedian would start the night off strong, be very conversational, and then bring up, you know, like a feature level comedian or even an opener level comedian, and then like the stronger headliner closes the show. They used to do that they still do that in Canada, and that's how stand-up used to be like years ago.
Yeah. Do you think Tony maybe should like do that himself?
You mean on Kill Tony?
Yeah.
No, Kill Tony's fine the way it is. You know, there's a panel of people there, you know, that show they've been doing that for so long. I actually signed up for Kill Tony years ago, like 2013 in LA, when it was in the Belly Room, because I used to visit LA, you know, once or twice a year in like the early days of stand up, and I performed at the Comedy Store in some of like their little shows and open mics. And when Kill Tony was only like a year old, I signed up for it. So it was still popular there, but it was nowhere near what it is now. Like it was just some like little show with 60 people in the crowd. Yeah, it's the Comedy Store. This is fun.
So, do you prefer performing in LA or Texas? Like,
Texas.
What's your vibe?
Texas for sure. In fact, I love these. Austin can be up and down. Like I love the city of Austin overall. It has its problems, and I complain about it on stage sometimes. But there's just so much stand-up here, and there's so many different kinds of people here. But surrounding cities, like some of these blue-collar towns, and just like you drive an hour in any direction in Austin, there's just people, they're just hardworking people, and they just want to have fun. So you go on stage, and even if you're kind of funny, they just want to laugh. In Austin, there's a lot of people with money, and there's shit to do every night, and they've seen it all, so they're a little bit harder to grab sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's definitely tougher in Austin to, and it varies. So there's nights where they're amazing and other times they're just like, we're not impressed.
Wow. So you're saying that someone who's never seen a stand-up comedy show would laugh more than someone who's like a frequent goer?
I would say that, yeah. That's not like a rule, but for sure. Because sometimes, it all depends on, there's so many different variables, because sometimes crowds just suck. Honestly, like it's so weird. Like I've seen A-list 25-year in, having 5 specials in comedians that are millionaires go on stage and eat shit because the crowd is just tired or weird, and they're maybe trying new stuff. But I'm not gonna drop names, but I've right because I used to go to the Tempe Improv when I lived in Phoenix. And I just, at the time, I was like a year or two into stand-up, and I thought if you're a household name and you're at a club on a weekend, you're going to crush 100% of the time. Right. I watched like a really talented, good comedian who's had like a 30-year career kind of bomb. And it, like for a while, and I was just like, I didn't know these guys could bomb. This is crazy.
I mean, yeah, Norm Macdonald used to bomb every other time. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
it's like it's such a weird
George
thing.
Carlin used to walk auditoriums, if they weren't feeling him. And I'm talking like angry, bitter, like 60-year-old George Carlin would
Right,
go up
the
and
best.
just let loose, start ranting, and they're just like in some small. I think it was in North Dakota. There was a story in like 2005 maybe. He like walked like thousands of people at some theater because he was just unhinged that night. It was like, I'm gonna yell about shit that that pisses me off, and I don't care if you find it funny. Here's a name I will say. I did a comedy festival called the Big Pine Comedy Festival in Flagstaff. Shout out to them. And I don't know if you guys know who Nick DiPaolo is.
Not
No.
really.
He's a very successful comedian out of Boston. He's been doing it for years. He used to do Tough Crowd with Colin Quinn a lot, if you remember that show.
Gotcha.
And he's very conservative, and he doesn't care who knows it. And Flagstaff, I guess, is a little more liberal. And he went on stage, and they paid him as like the marquee headliner of this festival. And he goes on stage, and he's just ranting about like he loves Trump and all this stuff. And he was walking like hundreds of people, and he's up there, and he's like, "I don't give a shit. The check's been cleared. I've been paid, motherfuckers." And I was just standing there. And he is super funny, but I'm like, he doesn't care that everyone hates him right now. Like, this is kind of empowering.
Do you think that's like a trait that comedians need to like?
Yeah,
I know they need thick skin, but do you also have to not care about the audience?
There's a line in like not caring, because sometimes if you're just abrasive and you're mean and you really don't give a fuck, like you have to give a fuck a little bit. There's like, I forget who said it. I think it was Greg Fitzsimmons. He's like, just don't be afraid to bomb and don't be afraid to be yourself. And whatever happens after that is what it is. But if you're confident, in control, and you know your ability, and you're actually good at comedy, like it's going to go well. But you don't want to be like, don't give a fuck to the point to where you're disrespectful to the audience. And I see that, I've probably been guilty of it before, where people get mad if a joke doesn't work, and they're like, fuck you guys. Or they think that they can shield the emotion of bombing or people not liking them by like, if you don't care about me, I don't care about you. Like, I absolutely care about the audience and if they're going to have fun or not. And I think that's something a lot of comedians don't appreciate or are aware of. Sometimes we're so set, and if my set goes good, yay. If my set goes bad, fuck, that sucked. It's like, no, but think about the audience first. And I feel like that, that empowers you more as a stand-up. I'm like, it's the loneliest and most need for a group of, I'm trying to word this properly, like, you're standing on stage by yourself, so there is like a lonely solo aspect of it, but it requires, large groups of people in order to make it work. And I try to have more empathy and awareness of the crowd more. So, like, don't give a fuck to like you care if people like think a certain thing of you, but really try to please them and make them laugh. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, because like, you don't want to doubt yourself based on what their opinion is, and at the same time, you want to be in service to them, because in the end, you are getting paid by them to entertain them. Your job is to entertain.
Absolutely.
It's also like, it's supposed to be fun, you're supposed to be enjoying
of course.
The fact that you're entertaining.
And they can kind of sniff it out when you're up there, whether you're phoning it in or, if you're just, I feel like that if you're not having fun and you like, there's a disconnect sometimes with the crowd, and somehow they can tell. It's so weird, because I'm like, these jokes have killed 100 times over, but if you're just not feeling it, or if you're too nervous or something, like they can sniff it out. Like, oh, there's something rigid and fake about this right now.
I think
like
something
when you're loose and having fun, like there's nothing better.
Definitely. I think something that can empower a comedian, as if he's nervous on stage, is actually just claiming it on stage. I was watching. Yeah, I was watching so he's a Lebanese comedian here in the UK. His name's Ali Musa. Shout out to him.
Yeah.
He was opening for another comedian, and at one point he just said it to everyone. He's like, you can see that I'm shaking, I'm nervous, and people just laughed. It was It was just like he claimed his emotion, and people like could see it, and they resonated with it.
Yeah, of course. Acknowledging what is happening is I think you need to, because it can become awkward and uncomfortable if you don't. If there's a glaring joke, like it's glaring that you're not doing well, or you're nervous, or there's, I feel like that you need to bring it up. Yeah, because that's like, it's unnatural. If something weird is going on, just to ignore it, just feels strange to me.
Right.
Yeah, that's very true.
I feel like when you start to really become a stand-up comedian is when you become yourself, and it literally took me to like year 8. I always had good jokes. I would go up and, do well for the most part if the crowd was there for stand-up. Like, comedy ready crowds, they're going to laugh more than at a bar or just at some weird showcase.
Yeah.
And once you start being yourself plus jokes, that's when you really start to turn the corner as a stand-up. And that started for me because I ran this dive bar open mic in Tucson, Arizona. And it was, we got shut down for a while, and it was during the pandemic, 2020, 2021. And we'd open intermittently. It's like, we're open now for 2 weeks. Nope, we got to close down again. The numbers are up. And every time they were open, I was still hosting this open mic, but no comedians would show up because, scared of COVID. And just so sometimes it would be just me. And I would do just like an hour of just talking to like 7 drunk people at the bar. And I would jab in jokes a little bit. And after doing that for a few months, I'm just like, oh, I'm like now being me on stage plus jokes.
Yeah.
So I turned the corner for sure.
Would you say it's the amount of time you put into it also? That it's like you have to put in the hours and hours and hours and hours?
Oh, yeah. The general rule is you got to be doing stand-up for 10 years, but that's a difficult thing to measure because I know so many people that stop for a while. They come back, they stop. I'm just like, I've never really taken like large breaks. I mean, COVID was probably the biggest one. Other than that, it's always just been like, oh, I haven't been on stage for 2 weeks or something, but, I know people that stop for years and then they come back, and then they stop for 6 months and then they come back. It's almost like, yeah, you've been doing it 20 years, but there's someone that's been doing it 7 that's put in actual more time on stage than you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Totally. And what do you think about like the roast format? Like, like Tony can come to you and say, hey, with a face like yours, how are you meeting any girls? You know what I mean? And that's a mean comment if I just said that to someone on the street. But what's the difference between saying it on the street versus saying it in a comedy show? And
because it's more,
how do you know the context?
Yeah. It's definitely, I mean, on stage it's different because, we're trying to make people laugh. If I were to just walk up to someone in front of a Circle K and be like, wow, you look like you look like an autistic Morgan Freeman. Like, why? Like, that's just insulting somebody. There's a difference between roasting and insulting.
Yeah.
Like, I remember David Lucas just roasted me a bunch in the green room out of nowhere. He was just like, it's a Puerto Rican it or something. I was like, a Puerto Rican it? But,
yeah, the Puerto Rican it, I don't think that doesn't fly, bro. David Lucas fucked up on that one.
Yeah. I think
he's good at roasting. He's good at roasting Tony,
Right. I think Ali froze on me.
He did. Ali did freeze.
Did he freeze for you?
Yeah. I think he laughed so hard that he just couldn't handle it anymore, man. He had
I think he spontaneously combusted.
He's turning red, so I don't know if he like continued turning red and then just go Allahu Akbar on live on the show.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, comedy, man. This is an awkward way to continue this conversation.
Right. He's out entirely now. His window disappeared.
I think this is a good time to roast him, to be honest.
Right?
So, you have your own podcast also, Ali.
Yes.
What got you into podcasting?
Okay, to make a long story short, but to make a long story long, no, here's the thing. I got into stand-up comedy through podcasting, but not in the way that you'd traditionally think, because I used to make music.
Okay,
I used to make rap music and make instrumentals, and we would rap, and I would sell beats on MySpace, if you remember MySpace. So this is back in like 2009, 2010, right when the Joe Rogan Experience was new. Like, I saw the first time Joe Rogan ever streamed a podcast because I followed him on Twitter, and he just sent out a blast like going live, and it was him and Brian Redband for the first Joe Rogan Experience ever.
Yeah.
And then I started listening to that every day or every time he released one, and we were doing music. I was like, we should do a podcast too. You know, we listen to Joe Rogan all the time. Let's just, you know, switch our lanes a little bit. We can't just do only music. So we started recording a podcast. Me and this other dude, who's in prison now, but that's an even longer story. Yeah. And we'd record a podcast, not even about our music, you know, smoking weeds, talking shit. And people all the time would tell me I was funny, or you should try stand-up. Or I would do like random impressions and stuff. They're like, have you ever done stand-up? And then after like the 5th time, I was like, you already told me that. I said, no. Like, no, I didn't. I was like, oh, another person is telling me to do stand-up. So I just started hitting open mics. And then, you know, just got the bug, got addicted to it, and just kept at it. And then it took me till 2020 because I was like, I need to start a podcast again. And then when the pandemic happened and we couldn't do anything, I was like, I'm finally going to start my own podcast. And I haven't stopped. Yeah, my 200th episode will be coming out next week. So,
well, fuck yeah, man, that's great.
Yep. Yeah,
just sticking to it and like staying consistent.
That's the same thing with comedy too. Sticking with it is everything. There's so many. I've met so many comedians that were brilliant that just quit. They could have figured it out. They could have. Like, I'm talking that were really funny, and they got a job. They got married. They had a kid. They just couldn't take the grind and the rejection and the longevity it takes to get anywhere.
Yeah.
And I get it. I have empathy and understand, but you know, it's definitely
what's your perspective on that, like these decisions that you have to make in your life between following your dream or choosing a career?
I mean, I'm definitely more of the follow your dream, but sometimes you got to be realistic because that's a difficult question because I meet a lot of people that I'm just like, some people just don't have it. And I don't want to say that to be mean because I've seen people that were objectively bad at comedy for years and they figured it out. You know, they stuck at it so hard, but there's sometimes it's just like, you're really just wasting your time. I know that's a mean thing to say, but there's going to be some of that. So I'm like, it might be time to hang it up and get a job or just figure something else out. You know, I'm not saying to never do comedy again or never seek out a goal or go after some form of a dream, but you know, you have to be realistic. Life isn't a movie. You know, it's not just like, you know, just fuck off for your entire, you know, young adulthood trying to go after something that clearly isn't going to pan out. You know, but anything's possible and everyone is, you know, can do what they feel like is best for them. Because like I said, I've seen some people really turn it around, and who am I to tell you not to do it either? At the same time as what I just said, I'm like, if it was up to me, I'd say probably, you know, go back to school or something. But, you know, if they don't, I respect it still, just to keep at it.
You know, it's something that I constantly also have to think about because I keep getting told different perspectives. Mainly actually I keep getting told the perspective of the career, you know, just because it's safer and all that shit. But it doesn't stick in my head. You know, like I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy being in debates. I enjoy making jokes. I enjoy those aspects of my life. But then if someone wants to put me behind a desk and just tell me like, okay, these are the list of tasks you have to accomplish today, just do this, you know, repeat the same process based on what everyone else is doing, it really kills you. It just drains your soul.
Yeah, it's soul sucking.
So
there's a balance that you have to have. Like, do you want to be miserable doing something that gives you security, or do you want to take a chance on something to where it might really impact your livelihood and paying bills? And, you know, it's hard. You know,
there's a long list of rejections that you have to face,
and
a lot of risk that you have to take before you actually get somewhere.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like I said, specifically with stand-up, it's the most, you know, it's the most unusual thing because you could be one yes away from your life changing, or you could be on the path 10 more years of really not getting anywhere. You know, but as long as you love doing it, and, you know, I know so many people that, like, you know, live in their car or are in their 30s with multiple roommates and they're still going for it. And I have respect for those people, you know, because if you love it enough, you know, you'll put yourself through stuff that normal people wouldn't. That's another thing. Now that you bring that up, I've met comedians that easily were on their way to a fulfilling career and getting somewhere. They just don't like the, you know, the, I'm trying to think of the word here. You know, it's difficult when you don't have the security, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like,
and speaking of security, here we have Mr. Career.
He's back with the cat in the background. I got cats around here too. If they wake up, I'll introduce you to them.
Welcome back, Ali. We were just talking
sorry about the interruption.
Your safety issues.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. We were roasting you.
Are you
for
safe
like
and secure, Ali? Are you good?
I feel I've been in trouble. Yeah, exactly. You know, when you make too many mistakes, that's what happens. You get fucked up when you mess around with this kind of people right here.
Right.
What happens?
Homeland Security was knocking on your door because of that. I think that's what you got interrupted with.
You know, Ali, you know, when I was a kid living in Lebanon and I want to move to the United States, everyone used to tell me, your name is Ali. You're gonna never have a career here. You're never gonna... Everyone's racist. Yeah, literally, that's what everyone used to tell me. Everyone used to discourage me from moving to America because they say, well, you're Arab, and so they don't like Arabs, and so there's no way you're ever gonna succeed in anything. But look at me now.
That's victim mentality.
That is victim mentality. But you Ali, know? I think you also learned the white man's voice, and that's why you're doing so well.
Right.
Bro, I swear to God, you should have heard him the other day. Like we were just having a meeting about the podcast, and then he's like, "Oh wait, I have to do a phone call." And his voice instantly switches because he's talking to some Karen on the phone. And
hey, Rebecca, how's your day going? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll be coming in later.
That's are you one of those people to where when you get upset, the accent starts to come out?
Yeah, habibi.
Like what are you talking about? That's going to cost me $100.
Yes, exactly. And I have to roll it back a bit.
Right,
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, for you, like, there wasn't any like Libyan comedian. What made you think you even had a chance at success if no one else before you has ever done it?
Right. Well, you missed a pretty in-depth conversation about how I started stand-up, and I'm serious.
Oh, wow.
Bro, he was a rapper.
That.
He went from rapper to Joe Rogan to
so
his partner's in jail for some reason.
I can't believe I missed all that.
I'll give you the quick cliff notes really fast so the listeners don't have to go through that again. Started off as a rapper, and then we were listening to the Joe Rogan Experience all the time, and we're like, let's start a podcast as well. During the podcast, you know, our 22 listeners would always tell me I was funny and I should try stand-up. So started doing stand-up. And it was because of the Joe Rogan Experience, but not because I wanted to be a comedian at all. We were rappers, started a podcast because of his podcast. People told me I was funny. Boom, started comedy.
Wow. That's a clip right there.
Right,
Damn. Right. Mm-hmm. You know, we had like a guy who was like a philosopher, psychologist guy on the podcast, and he was telling us that like stand-up is like the highest art form because it really gets everyone in a room laughing together.
Right.
They describe it like a spiritual experience, you know? It's like
right. Yeah, there's a weird like connection and energy that you feel. It's just like there's nothing else like it. Like it is like, not to be cliche, but it almost is like a drug. Like it really is. Like there's times where I'll do like a really excellent show in front of like several hundred people and I kill, and it's hard to go to sleep that night. You feel like hyped up, and just the adrenaline takes a while to so it's like, I should have just done a line of meth and I could have just skipped the show, you know?
It also, the energy stays with you for days. It's not only for that night. You can feel it coursing through you for the next couple of days.
For sure.
So, and speaking of energy, like, do you feel like comedians might be like one of the most emotionally intelligent people out there?
100%. I really think that too. And it's the biggest thing that, I mean, I knew in school too, just going through high school, some of the smartest people I met were just like the rejects who would skip class all the time. But then when you talk to them, they're super intellectual. They have like the most, you know, intelligent vocabulary. I'm like, how are you failing every class? And, and then I meet comedians that are just like in and out of dead end jobs, you know, barely scraping by. They have multiple roommates, and then they're just so articulate and smart. And they go on stage, and just the things that they say, I'm just like, they're clearly smarter than like the average person, I would say. But you know, if you were to measure it by like, oh, what's their education, what's their success and money and all that, and it's just, yeah, the comedians are definitely, I feel like, you know, on the more intelligent side. And you would just think, oh, just some dude ranting on stage about his penis is probably dumb as fuck, right? There's smart dick jokes out there. It's crazy. Like, wow, how did you think of that?
I remember we also had a guest in the past tell us about this controlled experiment they did on a bunch of people that have high IQs, where to measure like the success they attain in their lives. And what they notice is the majority of them don't end up becoming like very successful people. They're just like normal people in life. Because intelligence doesn't measure success. It's more of like it's the motivation factor that you need.
The hard work.
Right. And a lot of people are too smart to get into something they're going to hate too, I feel like. Because they're just like, oh, I could easily use my intelligence to go into this company, into this field of work, and probably excel. But I just don't want to live like that.
Yeah.
Did you ever have like something like that, like a job you think you could have done, but then you just comedy instead?
Nothing like big time, but I had like a pretty decent pay. I remember because I was telling you guys at the beginning, I've quit so many jobs. I had this job in maybe it was 2014, and I had been living in Phoenix for like a year, and you know, just mostly doing open mics, but starting to get booked at some of the clubs a little bit. And I had this job called being a conformance tester. It's where you check phone lines throughout the city. You go into these alleyways and you use this machine and you plug it in to phone lines, and you could actually listen in on people talking on their phones too, which was fun. They're like never saying, I would say the meanest shit to people and just like pull it out real fast and just be like, But this is 2014, and I was making like $25 an hour. That's not bad for 10 years ago for a person with no real experience. And I was working full time too. And they had like benefits and everything. I remember one day I just quit that job. I was just like, I don't want to do this. I have a gig, you know, I have to be up at 6 a.m. When they wanted me to start getting up at 5 in the morning, I couldn't do it anymore. Because I'm like, now I'm getting 3 hours, 4 hours of sleep. And it was in the sun in the Phoenix weather too, in the summer.
Oh, shit.
So it's like 118. Yikes. And I get so dark when I'm in the sun. So like my act, that whole 3 months I had that job, my act was how I'm just a new ethnicity every time I take the stage. Because I was getting darker and darker. But yeah, I could have stuck with that, you know, and who knows where that would have taken me. I could have still been there and been like, oh, I'm like the, you know, co-manager of this big section of the company in Phoenix, and I make $200,000 a year or something.
I thought of like a random comment when you said that different ethnicities thing. I was gonna say like 50 Shades of Libyan or some shit like that.
Right. It's hilarious.
So for you, what's like the top of comedy for you? Was it Joe Rogan that got you into stand up, you said?
But, I mean,
who inspired you the most?
This is a weird one too, because no one ever brings him up, and he wasn't like a gigantic, like, oh, this is the guy that I, you know, that's made me really want to be a comedian. But the first time I knew I loved stand-up comedy was Dana Carvey.
Wow.
If you know him from SNL back in the day, and
totally.
You know, what was the movie he did with Mike Myers? Wayne's World, all that. But he had this special on Comedy Central that they used to show all the time, and this is like 1998. And I used to watch. I probably watched it like 30 times because it would come on, and I didn't even know he was talking about like politics and shit too, and I didn't even know what he was talking about. But his act outs and his voices were so silly that I would roll on the ground laughing so hard that I couldn't breathe. And every time I watched it, I laughed that hard, and then so that's like my earliest memory of being like, you know, that would be fun to do, you know.
Yeah.
And George Carlin as well. I actually got to see him live when I was 19. I got to see him live.
Wow.
Yeah, a couple years before he died.
Oh, lucky you.
Another one too is one of my major influences too is Doug Stanhope. If you guys know him,
yeah, totally, yeah. Of course,
so I've had the opportunity to go to his house a bunch of times and do shows with him because He lives in Bisbee, Arizona. So I bought one of his albums when I was like 16. The album had, this is why I bought it. This shows how I love horror movies and I'm deranged. There was an actual dead body on the album cover. And it was called Die Laughing. And there's like a photo from like the Vietnam War or something of like clearly a dead dude. And I love the album so much that, and then years later, I'm doing stand-up in Tucson, Arizona. Doug Stanhope does this competition called Funniest Person in Arizona, and it's a mock competition making fun of contests, because contests are mostly bullshit, especially in something like comedy as well. You know, it's not like there's no real measurement of like who's better at this, you know. And he just made a mock competition where we all got to do 1 minute, and him and a panel of judges sat up there, and this is in front of like 800 people. So I sent some video, I got accepted to do this contest, and then we partied with Doug Stanhope, got to meet him, and then he started doing annual Super Bowl parties at his house in Bisbee, Arizona, which is just like an hour and a half south of Tucson. And we would do comedy in his backyard, and then he would come up and crash open mics all the time in Tucson. We'd be doing a regular open mic on a Thursday night. Doug Stanhope just walks in with a drink in his hand and just hangs out. And so yeah, that's been one of the highlights of my life as a comedian. And here's what I say about Doug Stanhope. He is a top 5 living comedian amongst other comedians. If you talk to comedians that are really, I'm talking even the best headliners in the world, I feel like he's top 5 living. The respect that he gets in. Yeah.
So what is your top 5 list?
I really don't have one, honestly, but I know I just
you really put Doug there, man. You gotta have.
I know. I'm saying that he's probably like top 5 living amongst comedians as far as the respect factor goes.
The comedian's comedian.
I love Joey Diaz too.
Yeah, I would love to see him.
Joey Diaz, man.
I got to open for him a few times.
What? Wow.
Yeah. No way.
Yeah.
That's legendary.
Sounds like I'm
you're
bragging.
Living the dream, man.
No.
Yeah,
cool,
I mean, because you're a regular guy, you know, getting into stand-up and then meeting the heroes, you know. It's,
right.
It's an inspiring journey, you know.
For sure. And here's the thing: I'll be, you know, transparent and not act like, oh, I'm so funny, Joey Diaz. I asked him on Facebook one day, oh, you're coming to the Tempe Improv, can I open for you? And he said yes. And I was like, he said yes. And then I followed up with, this is like 2016. I followed up with, he said, yeah, you can open. I said, cool. Who's featuring? And he's like, don't worry about it. I said you could open. I was like, okay. And he was so cool. I got to do it a few times over the years at the Tempe Improv. And yeah, he's one of my favorites for sure. He makes me laugh. I mean, I feel like that you could say that technically there's people that are maybe better at like the traditional art of stand-up, like, you know, how locked in they are to like set up punchline, just jokes. But as far as someone just being pissed off and ranting, he might be my favorite.
Totally.
So is he a better ranter than George Carlin?
It's different for sure. I think they're both up there. It'd be hard to choose. Joey Diaz's ranting makes me laugh more though. I mean, George Carlin's yelling about the government being corrupted. Yeah. Joey Diaz is talking about, you know, the shape of a woman's vagina when he was 12 years old or something, you know.
Ali, I've always wondered, like, what's it like with the whole comedian drama bit? I just always see that comedians are always arguing with each other, and
it's high school for broken adults. It really is.
Why? But why?
I don't know. I feel like high school reflects like other aspects and points in your life as well, and it's just with comedians, you know, it's just I don't know what it is, but you know, a lot of, you know, let's be honest, mentally ill, unstable, unhinged people that are doing something fucking crazy, and there's egos involved and there's competition involved, unfortunately, and then people collide, you know, and I've seen when I lived in Phoenix, there was 2 comedians who both ran comedy clubs, and they were like in their late 40s, early 50s at the time, and they would threaten to fight each other on Facebook. And one of the other clubs started becoming more successful, and they were clearly breaking fire code. Like this room should have held like 150, and he was packing it with like over 200. So we called the fire marshal on them, and the fire department shows up in the middle of a packed out show and gives them a violation, and then they go back to Facebook and challenge each other to a fist fight. I'm like, these are like grown men, in their 50s. Like, this is crazy.
Bro, just poke him, bro. Just poke him on Facebook. Don't have to.
Right.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Does it make you ever want to be more dramatic or such?
I've avoided drama for the most part. I've been pulled into it a little bit, but I've never been that person. I'm just like, I focus on being funny and just getting funnier and being professional too, and showing up to do my thing. There is a lot of politics and a lot of unfairness, but that's life. And I've just never cared to just get into the dramatic, argumentative aspect of stand-up, because there's too much of it for sure.
That's something we've been also talking about for the podcast too, in terms of like how much are you willing to, in order to get like a quick boost or a quick clicks,
I mean, there's like backstabbing and people trying to steal each other's shows. That's a big thing that's happened over the years. Someone will be like, "Oh, you're paying him this much? I'll do it for half."
Wow.
People try to snake rooms from each other.
Oh my.
Yeah.
I guess that's where the immigrant discussion comes in as well.
Right. They're taking our jobs. Right.
Not bad. So what do you think, Saeed? It's been another podcast with Ali Musa.
Yeah, we just need to find a way to end it with a roast battle.
Okay. Also, follow me on YouTube, Ali USA 86. I post stand-up clips, cat videos. I do live game streaming on there.
Nice.
And, my podcast, the Ali USA podcast. And
Wait, what do you game?
Perfect.
Man?
I've been trying. Well, I've gamed like. So I got this gaming laptop last year, and I'll do like some of the newer Resident Evil games, but I do a lot of old school Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo games, and I suck at them really bad. Yeah. I don't force emotion, but people think it's funny when I'm like getting my ass kicked and getting mad about it. So like, there's a lot of that on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why the Sega Genesis games though? Why not?
Because I'm a '90s kid. I grew up playing Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, and there's just something fun and nostalgic about it.
That makes sense. So now for the roast battle, Ali, you get first mic. You can start roasting us, and then we'll return fire.
Oh
my goodness!
All right, I see you have SpongeBob on your shirt. What are you, gay? That's for you, Saeed.
Oh wait, that's me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is me. Fuck.
Right. Saeed looks like he harasses women in malls in a kiosk.
Yeah, that's true. Wait, how did you know? That's my part-time job.
My part-time job.
Yeah, I do it on Saturdays and Sundays. Sometimes I harass your mom as well. No, I'm joking. Sorry, I'm not very good
That's
at...
big words for someone who wears shitty cologne to bed.
Hey, man, I'm just trying to stick to my ethnicity, I just got to stick with the color coding that I'm given. I'm not I'm not white. I'm Visa white.
Visa White. That should be the name of your next podcast. Visa White.
That is true.
Nice. Well,
Ali, do you mind roasting the guest, not me?
All right.
Why am I getting roasted?
He's our guest. We're supposed to treat him good, Ali.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I mean, he's pretty buff. He's pretty swole. It impresses me. I don't know if it impresses girls, but it does impress me.
Well,
bro, I'm just looking for the.
As long as you're impressed.
Look, I'm just looking for the moment you catch on Kill 20 where you just don't bomb anymore.
Oh, there we go. Next time.
Jeez.
Hey, I had 2v1. I had to shoot with the big guns. And Ali the Professor trying to look like a fucking Saturday Night Live host or some shit. I don't know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, sorry.
Like an update.
Yeah, totally. He looks like he hosts his own game show at a nursing home.
Actually, not wrong. Yeah, exactly.
What's the audience like, bro? How's the vibe? They're just eating their soup. Like,
a lot of diarrhea.
Oh,
exactly. You ever make someone laugh so much that they poop? Yeah, exactly. That's my specialty.
That should be my goal. Once that happens, I'll quit comedy. I'll be like, I'm done. I've achieved it all. What else? What's the point of doing this anymore?
You can retire, man. If that happens, yeah, you're just.
Right.
All right, Saeeds. Well,
all right, guys. So
another podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. That was a lot of fun. Honestly.
Oh, thank you, Ali.
Cool.
No,
Same here,
it's
buddy.
been great having you on as well.
Thank you.
And you guys, this has been another podcast on A2 The Show. We've had Ali Musa. We've had some great laughs. We've shown him his true birth parents from the start. Ali, the professor, has his cat with us. We had a special guest. And this is how we sign out. Salute to the camera.
High five.
Yes. KD battle.
Woo!
Cat battle.
Fight.